Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Lila Web Dev. In this video, we will try to understand about the Unix domain socket and also the inter-process communication in the Node.js. So let's say that, for example, if you want to communicate between two processes or between in the same OS or something like that, so we can use something like communication between these two. So we have used this one. What is that one? The streams concept and all those things we have used it, right? There is also another process where you can. There is also another way how you can communicate between the two process. That is nothing but using the Unix domain sockets and also the IPC. Okay, inter-process communication. So we can also use this way also we can communicate with this. So out of this one, in this inter-process communication, so we can able to see there are two types of things. So if you try to see, so one is using the TCP port. So TCP or IP port, we can do it. For example, let's say that we can start the server with the TCP port using the local host, and also we will open the port and we can communicate with then another one. So this is one way of communication. And also using the Unix domain concept, also using the Unix domain socket also, if you are trying to communicate with the two processes which are in the same OS, okay, which are in the same OS, then you can able to communicate with this one. So what is the thing? Let's try to understand. So here this process or this way will work only in the Mac, Linux, or any Unix based system. This process will work. If you try to work this one in the Windows, it will not work. So this is the confined to the Unix based system. So using the Unix domain socket, if you want to communicate with the two processes which are in the same OS, we can able to do it either with the TCP server also you can do it, localhost and all those things, or otherwise with this Unix domain socket also. And also we have seen the other way also, right? So that's it. So now in this video we will try to see, okay, why IPC. So now here communicating with this one, why IPC is often better than using the TCP port and the local host. And I will give you a simple example about this. Okay, let's try to say which one is the better one if you want to communicate. So we'll try to see about the other things. In this video, what we are trying to cover first of all, what is the Unix domain socket, and also what is an IPC and how it works in the Node.js, and why we use the IPC instead of TCP port and the local host. So we'll try to see these all the three concepts, and also we'll try to see a practical Node.js example using the net module for IPC. So by the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding how these concepts and how to use them in your projects. Before that, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more technical tutorials like this. So let's jump into the topic. So first one is, what is an Unix domain socket? So now I am always discussing about this one, right? What is an Unix domain socket? A Unix domain socket, or we can also say it is an UDS, is a way for processes on the same computer to communicate with each other. So that means it is a way, or it is a way means it is one method, it is a one way how we can communicate between the two processes which are in the same computer. Okay, that is one thing. So that means here we have our Node.js application and also a C programming, right? Both are in the same computer, but those are two different process. But we have communicated using the child process and all those things, using the data streams. Exactly what I can say is, using the data streams we have communicated. But here using the pipes and all those things we have communicated, right? There is also another way which you can do it. That is nothing but using the Unix domain socket. Unlike the regular network sockets that uses the IP address and the ports to talk over a network. So if you have a two different process which are in a different computers, means then the normal TCP port and all those things is the only thing. But here in the same computer on the same different process means, then we'll be using this one. Here the Unix domain socket, normally it uses the file system as their address, whereas the regular sockets or the TCP different machines, it will be using the IP address and ports to talk over the network. Think of it as like a something like a special file which will be present in the /temp/my_socket. So we will be creating that file that process can use to send and receive data. So why we need to use this Unix domain socket? So because it is super fast, because it skips the network stack. For example, if you try to see, if you use the TCP port to communicate with the two process, the network interface card is the essential one. So here whatever the data it is coming, it needs to go to the network interface card, and the network interface card will send it to the same will be send it to the another process. So here But if you try to use the Unix domain socket, which in the same ways, right? Instead of, it will not make use of the network card. So directly it will be stored in the RAM, and the RAM will take care of sending the data to another process. Because of this one, it is super fast because it is keeping the network stack, staying entirely within the operating system. And also it is secure. You can set file permissions to control who can access the socket. It supports both stream, like a continuous flow of data, and also a datagram, like individual packets communication also it will try to do. You will find Unix domain sockets in tools like Nginx, Redis, and even Node.js apps for efficient local communication. So this type of Unix domain socket we'll be able to see in the Nginx, Redis, and all those things while doing the communication. Imagine that two co-workers in the same office passing notes directly to each other instead of mailing them through the post office. So normally the TCP port and all those things is, for example, let's say the two employees are there in the same office. So instead of mailing them and all those things through the post office or something like that, so directly they are exchanging the notes. So that is what the Unix domain sockets do. They keep communication local and quick. So that is the main thing. Now what is an IPC? Okay, now you understand about the Unix domain socket. So it is a way of communicating between the two processes which are in the same operating system. So whereas the TCP socket communication will be having something like different machines, if you are having this, then you will be using this type of communication. Whereas we can use the localhost and 3000 to communicate with the same process, with the different process in the same machine. But here it make use of the network card, so which makes the efficient little bit low compared to the Unix domain socket. So this one is little bit fast if you are having the different process in the same machine. That is the main thing which I want to discuss. Let's try to discuss about the IPC. Inter-process communication, or IPC, is a mechanism that allows different processes to exchange the data. So this inter-process communication means it's a mechanism for the different process to exchange the data. In Node.js, IPC is used to let one Node.js process talk to each other, or even to non-Node.js process also it can do it. It's like a messaging system that keeps your application modular and efficient. So now IPC can happen in two ways. So IPC, the inter-process communication. So same thing, the communication between the two processes, it can be happening two ways. Using the Unix domain socket with we can use this Unix domain concept in the Node.js using the net module for communication between any process. And also we can use the built-in IPC channel in the child process module, which is great for parent-child process communication. You can also use the child process thing for communicating. I will try to explain you those all things. Just I am making familiarity about these all technologies. IPC is crucial when you want to split the tasks across the multiple processes. For example, you might have a Node.js server that offloads heavy computations to a child process and gets the result back via IPC. So I will try to I will try to show you a simple example how IPC in your Node.js we can use it. So why we need to use the IPC in Node.js instead of having the TCP port and localhost? I already told you about this one. So let's try to see. You might be thinking, why not we just use the TCP ports and the localhost, like localhost colon 3000 for communication? So that's fine. We can do it. Let's down why IPC, especially Unix domain sockets, is often the better choice. First one is the speed and efficiency. TCP sockets go through the okay. So let me explain you. So here the first one is the speed efficiency. So TCP sockets go through the network. So TCP sockets go through the network stack, even for the local host. That adds overhead like routing, packet handling, these all the things, as I already told you about the network thing. So Unix domain sockets, whereas this Unix domain sockets, what it will try to do, bypass the network stack entirely, making them faster for the local communication. Next one is the security. TCP, anyone in the machine can potentially connect to your port and you can do it. Whereas Unix domain socket, we need to have the file permission so that you can restrict the access to specific users or the process. Next one is the simplicity. No need to manage the port numbers or something like that. So there is no need to manage the port numbers or worries about the port conflicts. Just use the file path here in the Unix domain, like temp map socket. Wherever you want to make the file, create the file path, just you can create a file and you can do it. And platform specific operations. So here this is the place where the things will come. Okay. So here, so Unix domain sockets doesn't work in the what I want to say is. So here it will not work. So let's try to see it. Unix domain sockets are designed for Unix like systems like Linux, Mac OS, or Unix based systems. You will be able to see. On Windows, Node.js uses the named pipes which work similarly. So in Windows it will not work, but it will use the named pipes which work similarly. but TCP is more general but less optimized for the local communication. So that's it. So now imagine that you are running a Node.js web server and a database on the same machine using a Unix domain socket for communication, like taking a shortcut within the building instead of sending messages over the internet. Okay. So now I will try to show you a simple example how we can communicate through the database, how we can do a IPC communication using the net module in the Node.js. I'll try to see. In the next video, I will try to explain. This is all about the Node.js, this is all about the Unix domain socket and also an IPC in the Node.js. I hope you have a pretty good understanding about this Unix domain socket and also an IPC. So it's a simple thing only. Instead of this is another way how we can communicate with the two different process in the same machine. I will, so that's it about this one all. So if you have any doubts or any suggestions, please post the comments below to this video. And if you like this video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel. Thank you.